We're about 24 hours away from the 2023 NBA draft getting underway, and I'm absolutely excited. And we got a mock draft coming up from the Chat Sports Studios for all of you guys out there that have just been devouring our NFL draft content. But if you are ready for the real thing to see Victor Wembanyama go number 1 overall, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon right now. Let's get into this mock draft. I'm joined by producer Rolly. Rolly, what's going on, man?
Yeah, I mean, it's good to be here. NBA draft is just 24 hours away, and I know you guys see Victor Wembanyama on screen right now as the number 1 overall pick, and I don't think there's any chance in the world that anything changes from now until then. Wembanyama will be a Spur, and maybe the next Tim Duncan. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that there's going to be any shockers here. Wembanyama is going to be that number 1 pick. And I don't know what we're going to get in the NBA, but it's going to be definitely interesting. The draft, though, it starts at number 2 overall. And some rumors are coming out that the Charlotte Hornets are starting to zero in on Brandon Miller. I know you're a big Brandon Miller guy, Rolly. And how can you not be, right? 6'8", 6'9". He's got great length, great wingspan. He's got height. He can put it on the deck, score at all 3 levels. Is his floor potentially an NBA All-Star? Like, the scoring ability is just different with Brandon Miller.
Yeah, Miller's got the most polished offensive game coming into this NBA draft class, and he can score on all 3 levels of the court. Needs to improve a little bit as a playmaker to take that next step, but he can come in day 1, play alongside LaMelo Ball, and fill up the stat sheet with 20-plus points from year 1. If Wembanyama wasn't so good, I would actually pick Brandon Miller to probably be the Rookie of the Year, but Miller is going to slide in and fit better next to LaMelo Ball rather than Scoot Henderson. I know a lot of people believe Scoot can fit next to LaMelo Ball, but I like Miller's fit on the wing, and we know, we've talked about this a lot, Marshall, that wings run the league, so to have a premier point guard and Ball paired up with an elite wing like Miller, fireworks can be happening down in Charlotte.
Who is your player comp for Brandon Miller?
Liz, I know it's lazy, and a lot of people have said Paul George, but I really do think the offensive game for Paul George fits Miller's. Just the way he can get to his spots in the mid-range, step back deep 3. I mean, he's got a great shooting stroke, shot 38% from 3 in college while shooting about 6 or 7 a game. So he has the volume, he has the efficiency. Miller can shoot it and get to the deck and get to the cup.
Yeah, he's going to be a great pro as long as he stays healthy, which you could say about all of these draft prospects. Number 3 overall, you had Scoot Henderson going to the Portland Trail Blazers. I don't know if that means that you think a Damian Lillard trade is going to happen. I love Scoot Henderson. His ability to get to the rack, his just athleticism is off the charts. I consider him a ferocious style of driver. I think he's got a lot of size and strength as well as quickness. I think he's going to be a can't-miss pro in the NBA. Got to improve that outside shot, but I like the form, and I think he could definitely do that.
Yeah, I mean, I really do think that any 3 of these guys in the top 3 in this draft class could have been the number 1 overall pick in prior classes and likely would have been the number 1 pick in the next class as well. All 3 of these guys can be franchise-changing players. Scoot Henderson is also one of those guys, and maybe it does push out Damian Lillard in Portland. He finally asks out, as Lillard has been on record saying he does not want to go through a rebuild and play with younger guys. So if the Blazers end up taking Scoot Henderson at number 3 and he's joining the Blazers roster, you might hear Damian Lillard requesting of a trade shortly after, but Scoot Henderson has all the billings to be one of the top point guards in this league. And I really think the comparison between the 2, it's toss-up. I think you could go on the street in the NBA circles and really ask anybody, and you could probably get a different answer for who should be the number 2 pick. And with Adrian Wojnarowski saying that the Charlotte Hornets are zeroing in on Brandon Miller 24 hours before the draft, are the Hornets making the right decision?
Look, I understand the thought process. I personally have Scoot above a Brandon Miller, but I do like the fit better of Miller and LaMelo Ball. But you make the call. Are the Hornets making the right decision by potentially taking Brandon Miller number 2 overall? Let me know what you think down in the comment section. Type Y for yes, type N for no. And if you could hit with that YouTube ad break right about now, scroll on down and get your votes in. All righty, is this going to be the first time we have an elite player get selected inside the top 5? Amen Thompson going to the Houston Rockets. I'm not the biggest fan of the Thompson twins, but I definitely see the upside in their game.
Yeah, I mean, Thompson is one of the, if not the most athletic player in this class, has a lot of Russell Westbrook in him, which I know you could consider a lazy comparison because it's like, oh, it's just a tall, lengthy point guard that can drive to the cup and slam it on people's heads. But Thompson's got great ball handling skills, a one-man fast break, has good vision. It's just all about that jump in competition. Can Thompson go from overtime elite, where he's basically playing high schoolers as a 20-year-old, to NBA players and have that game translate? That's the number one thing. Number two thing, can that jump shot improve? Because both Thompson twins really have horrible jump shots. Amen's is a little bit worse than Ausar's, so Amen's got to really improve that jump shot to be effective in the NBA.
Yeah, I get kind of concerned that if you can't hit the outside shot in the overtime elite league, at least at a average clip, I don't know how long it's going to take for you to be a solid NBA shooter. But like we said, the athleticism and the upside is definitely there with Amen Thompson. Cam Whitmore going number 5 to the Detroit Pistons. I like the young core that Detroit is starting to build, especially if Whitmore is a part of that core. And there's definitely mixed feelings on Mr. Cam Whitmore. I know there's some people inside the Chat Sports Studios that like him a lot. What's the breakdown on him?
Yeah, I like Whitmore. He's a young guy, so he's going to have a lot of chance to improve in the NBA early on. I don't love his three-point shooting, and he projects more of a wing. At Villanova, he played like the 3-4 as like a small ball 4, but he attacks the rim with ferocity and can really get up and slam it home. Great athleticism, great size. He's 6'6", 235, so he's really that tweener between can he play as a combo guard or is he more of a wing. Whitmore's got to improve the three-point shooting, but he fits really well in Detroit as the third guy, potentially next to Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey, and then obviously you got Jalen Duran inside. That team can be building towards the future if Whitmore pans out as a 3-and-D prospect.
I really think the draft, I said it, at number 2 it starts, but it feels like at number 6 is really when the draft gets rolling, and kind of the projections are all over the place. You have a Sir Thompson going number 6 with the Orlando Magic. What do you like about that fit and kind of the developmental traits that the Magic can implement in Thompson's game?
Yeah, Ausar Thompson, when you look at the Thompson twins, Ausar is the much better defender and could be a versatile two-way player right off the jump. I really like Thompson's defensive prowess. He moves his feet well. He's got good length. He just got to establish that three-point jumper. Both Thompson brothers can't shoot, but Ausar's jumper looks more promising. It looks to project better in the NBA. If he can hit those threes, because they're going to sag off him to start. Him, Jalen Suggs, I mean, they have Paulo Banchero. They have a lot of young players there that are good two-way players. Thompson could add another two-way stud on the perimeter. He really plays that 2 or 3. We'll see how Ausar does, but he might be one of the biggest mysteries in this draft class.
The Thompson twins for me definitely are that. Number 7, Indiana on the clock, going with Jarace Walker. I like to call him a bruising forward out of the University of Houston. 6'7", almost 250 pounds. That 7'3" wingspan, though. That's mighty attractive for all of these NBA scouts out there.
Yeah, he is going to be a defensive menace from day one in the paint, and we'll see if they move off Miles Turner in this offseason, but I could just picture a front court of Jarace Walker, Miles Turner, and that is just a defensive nightmare for opponents. I don't know how they're going to score inside the paint. Walker can really switch on the guys on the perimeter as well. Halliburton running pick and rolls with Walker as well is very effective. Walker can pick and pop. He can drive. He's one of the best efficient pick and roll rollers, I guess you could say, in college last season. He also has a little bit of a jumper. I love the big man out of Houston. I really think he could be a good player in this league.
Him and Miles Turner in your front court, that's a lot of defense, a lot of length as well. Indiana could be building something special there with Halliburton running the point. Speaking of point guards, what about Anthony Black going number 8 to the Washington Wizards as they have officially hit that reset button? Sounds like Kyle Kuzma is going to leave in NBA free agency. We already know Bradley Beal is no longer there. Anthony Black, I know that I think he's a very intriguing prospect. The three-point shot concerns me a little bit, but when you watch the guy play, you can just feel his basketball IQ jumping off the screen.
Yeah, and I'm much higher on Anthony Black than others in the NBA draft community. I have him as my number 4 overall prospect, and I really think it's because he can play multiple positions on the basketball court. He suits better as someone with the ball in his hand playmaking, but he is one of the better defenders. He really can lock down anyone. You see it on your screen right now. 2.1 steals per game at Arkansas. He has great length, 6'6", 6'8" wingspan, amazing basketball IQ, can find rollers, can find cutters. It was just tough. There's so many guards that played for Arkansas last year. It's hard to really gauge how productive each one could be when you look at Debo Davis, Anthony Black, Nick Smith Jr. I mean, there's just so many ball handlers. I think that's why the numbers are down. But if Anthony Black can improve to a 35, 36% shooter in the NBA from three, he's going to be one of the better two-way point guards in the association. I love the Wizards hitting the reset button and starting with Anthony Black.
Number 9, Utah Jazz on the clock. They go with a springy athlete at the wing spot, Taylor Hendricks, 6'8", 7'1" wingspan, 15 points per game last year. But probably the most intriguing thing about him, rolling 39% from downtown. You need more shooters, and then he's a guy that can knock it down with great consistency.
Yeah, I love Hendricks. I was a little wary of him to start the draft process, but after doing some more research, I love Hendricks' game. He can just defend at a flat-out elite level. And you mentioned that three-point shooting. It's just so effective. And the Jazz are really stuck in this NBA purgatory right now. Like, I thought they were going to be bad, but they ended up not being that bad where they're still picking 9th. I mean, Lauri Markkanen's a good player. Markkanen at the 4, Hendricks at the 3. It's a big lineup, but Hendricks is very versatile, has good lateral quickness. I think even though he's a 6'8", 7'1" wingspan guy, he can really play that 3 and be a big guy. He can guard basically 1 through 5, even if he played the small ball 5. I love Hendricks' game. He can even put on the deck a little bit. He's got a really clean jump shot. I think Hendricks will move to the NBA and be a standout rookie right away.
Number 10, Derek Lively, the first big off the board. We've heard so much about the Dallas Mavericks wanting to become more of a defensive team, bring some size on the inside with Lively at 7'1". What do you think of him? Some people compare him to a raw Mitchell Robinson coming out of the NBA draft.
Yeah, I like Lively. He didn't really have too much production at Duke. I mean, he only averaged 5 points a game at Duke, but he has a 7'7" wingspan and is 7'1". He already has a good weight to him, 230 pounds, so that NBA frame is ready. And I just think when you look at the Dallas Mavericks, one thing they desperately needed is rim protection and defensive versatility. Lively can switch if he needs to. He's actually a pretty decent passer, too, which would surprise people for a man of that size. If he gets it in the short roll on a screen with Luka Doncic, he can stop, process the floor, and kick it out to an open three-point shooter. I think Lively is a little bit of a project, but in 1 or 2 years can be one of the better defensive centers in the NBA and be an anchor alongside Luka Doncic.
The Orlando Magic back on the clock at number 11, and I think they get one of the best complete, I don't know if you want to call them scorers, but shooters. I feel like he can rise up, get his shot whenever. I like this next 5 picks. Kobe Buffkin, Cason Wallace, Jordan Hawkins, Keontae George. I think Hawkins and George are 2 guys we're going to look at that why did they not go inside that top 10. But, you know, the NBA draft is always a crapshoot at the end of the day. Kobe Buffkin going to OKC. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so it's really interesting to see him go to OKC here. This is where I mocked him, and I think it's because more and more buzz coming out of this draft process is that OKC doesn't really care about what they need when it comes to positions. They just want to grab the most talent they possibly can and get them in OKC, and Buffkin definitely fits that. He's got a lot of work to do, I think, but the raw numbers are there. 14 points a game at Michigan, 19 years of age, will be close to 20 when the season starts, but I mean 6'4", 6'8", really good feel for the game, good defender. He's improving his jump shot on a day-to-day basis, but it got better. I think he's really, really good defender. One of my comps for him is Drew Holiday. He's just got that two-way ability where he can be a menace on the defensive end, really good when it comes to the mid-range jump shot. That's where he excels on offense right now. He's just got a little bit ways to go, and I think that's why OKC is such a good fit for him. When you have Shea, Lou Dort, Josh Giddey, Kobe can come off the bench or just stay a little bit in the G League and work. I think Kobe Buffkin's a really good fit for OKC.
We'll get to the rest of this mock draft coming up in a second, but we're talking the real NBA draft, and we're going to be live 2 hours before pick 1 gets announced by Adam Silver. So join us tomorrow on Chat Sports, youtube.com/chatsportstv. This will be the thumbnail on the video. So join us on Thursday as we break down every single pick of the NBA draft. It's going to be a lot of fun, informative, fun, engaging content. We want to see you there. So subscribe and turn your notifications on. Pick 16 through 20, Jalen Hood-Schifino going number 16 to the Utah Jazz. They got Jet Howard going to the Los Angeles Lakers. I've seen him mocked a lot to the Lakers. Why did you go with that spot right there?
Well, what is the one thing that the LeBron-led basketball teams always need? And it's shooting. And Jet Howard can provide good shooting with great size. I'm low on Jet Howard. I have him as my 28th ranked prospect in this draft. But just based off what I've seen in other mock drafts and other NBA draft intel, I believe he goes higher than expected. I know there's been actually some buzz about him going 18th to the Miami Heat. But Jet Howard, I mean, he's a 36.8 three-point shooter at Michigan on 7 attempts a game. So he gets them up and doesn't shoot that poorly when it comes to efficiently. He's a tall guy, 6'8", can play the 2 as a big man. He can play a 3, 4. He needs to put on more weight. The one bad thing about Howard is his defense. He doesn't have a good awareness. He hustles. It's not for a lack of effort, but he just doesn't have the defensive skills and the anticipation that could make him a two-way player. Maybe he develops it, but Howard is a really good shooter and could be a guy who plays really well off the ball in Los Angeles.
Nick Smith Jr. going number 18 to the Miami Heat, the guard out of Arkansas. Then Chris Murray going to the Golden State Warriors at number 19. Then Bilal Coulibaly going number 20. I want to ask you this question, Rolly. If you had to pick one of these guys to outproduce where they are slotted in this NBA mock draft, I don't want to call him a sleeper because 16 to 20 isn't really sleeper territory. Which one of these guys would you bet on having the best NBA career?
If I had to bet on one having the best NBA career, I'd probably go Jalen Hood-Schifino. I really like his game. But if you wanted to go back to the original question of having the highest ceiling, it might be Bilal Coulibaly. There is so much that we don't know about him. Teammate of Victor Wembanyama at Mets 92. A lot of people believe he's going late lottery. I had him slide a little bit because when you look at pick 16 through 19 here, you look at teams that might want to compete now with the Lakers, Heat, Warriors, and with the Jazz improving. This is their second pick. Take a guard. They need guard help. So I don't think a project like Coulibaly fits with any of these 4 teams ahead of them. The Rockets would be a good spot where he can learn, and they're not ready to compete right now. But Coulibaly's got all the measurables to be a star in this league. He's a great defender. He moves well off the ball. He just doesn't have any offensive game as of now. But if he develops some little bit of a bag, he can be a dangerous player in the league. I also really like Nick Smith Jr., one of the most touted prospects coming into college, struggled with injuries, really affected his production. But Nick Smith Jr., if he stays healthy, adds some more weight, he has the potential to be one of the better scoring guards in this league.
Love that. So I want to ask Rolly to give me a guy that's going to outproduce his draft slot. Now I want to ask you, who is your biggest sleeper in the NBA draft? There's a lot of guys you could go with. I want to hear from you, though. So give me a name in the comment section of someone you think's draft stock is being slept on. Picks 21 through 25 here. Noah Clowney, the center out of Alabama, going to the Nets. They have back-to-back picks, and they go with Bryce Sensabaugh, the forward out of Ohio State. What do you think of these 2 selections by Brooklyn having back-to-back picks at the early 20s?
Well, I'll say this about Brooklyn is I don't expect them to make these 2 picks. And they'll definitely take one. But why would they not package one of these picks or both of them to move up and get a better prospect? Like, the Nets are close to competing. I don't know. The East is pretty good. I know there's rumors of them potentially trying to get Damian Lillard if he asks out. But Clowney could be a really good big next to Nick Claxton. Those 2 would be menaces defensively, a lot of length, a lot of rim protection. Clowney can shoot the 3. He was not that effective at Alabama, but the stroke is there, and he shot 2 or 3 attempts a game at 29%. If he gets that number up to 33, 34, you can have a big-time situation inside where you have 2 tall guys who can rim protect. One guy can go out, one guy stays inside in the offense. It works out. And Sensabaugh, probably one of the better talented offensive players in this class, knows how to get to his spot, has a pure jump shot, can score at all 3 levels. The problem with Sensabaugh is this is injury history, a lot of knee problems, and it just makes teams wary. I think the Nets take the shot on him if they do take back-to-back picks here. Why not go with a guy who can be a 3-level, 18-point-per-game scorer in the future? Just got to wait on his injury history and maybe hope it plays out well in your favor.
What do you make of these next 3 prospects here? I think this is an intriguing group here. Leonard Miller, G League Ignite. What do you make of these next 3 guys?
Yeah, I love Olivier Maxence Prosper to Portland. And if they do make this selection, they're going to have to try to make a pick to convince Damian Lillard to stay in Portland. And Prosper does that. I mean, he is a guy who will be a dog defensively. He will chase guys around. Marquette guy, high motor. Just when you think of a Marquette basketball player in the association, just think of like Jay Crowder, Jimmy Butler, D Wade, just to name a few. What do they all have in common? High energy, dog mentality, good defensive players. Prosper fits that mold. And I like Jaime Jaquez Jr. here to Memphis. The Grizzlies need a more experienced player out of this class to help them win now. Jaquez will be one of the better role players to start from day one. And you go back to Leonard Miller, I think that he has the potential to be one of the better wings in this class. He's got all the measurables. It's just about developing a little bit of a jump shot. His jump shot looks broken, but if it gets fixed, he can be a dangerous player for the Kings. That just they add more offensive talent to that team. With their most highest scoring team in the NBA last year, Miller would help them defensively and make them better offensively as well.
Last 5 picks in this NBA mock draft brought to you by Chat Sports. I'm going to mess it up, but Brandon Podziemski, close, but no cigar. Going number 26 to the Indiana Pacers, and James Nagy going to the Charlotte Hornets. And Dariq Whitehead, one of the top prospects coming out of high school, had some foot injuries, going number 28 to the Utah Jazz. Then Ben Shepherd, going number 29, gets to go to Indiana as well, as they have 2 picks in this pot of 5. Then Trace Jackson Davis, the big man out of Indiana, going to the Los Angeles Clippers. What do you think of the last 5 picks of this mock draft?
Yeah, I'll say this right now, and it was kind of like the same thing with the Brooklyn Nets. You see the Pacers on here twice, and usually the teams that pick twice in 5 picks, I should say, in the first round don't make both selections. They either trade back to get future firsts or trade up. I don't think the Pacers take both picks. There's a lot of buzz about a New York Knicks team trading up and in. There's a lot of buzz of the Chicago Bulls trading Zach LaVine. Maybe they get one of these picks in a 3-team deal. I really like Ben Shepherd. I've talked to Marshall a lot about him lately. A lot of Quentin Grimes in him. Great 3-point shooter, good defender, good length. I would say this. I kind of mocked Ben Shepherd 29th, not for the Pacers. I actually do think the Knicks trade up into this late first round, and I like Shepherd for them. I didn't do any trades in this mock draft because it gets too complicated, but I kind of think Shepherd goes in this range because someone trades up into the late first to grab him if you're a contender, because he'd come in and fit right away. But one person I do want to mention on this list, James Nagy, going to Charlotte. They have Mark Williams, who played very well for them in his rookie year, but Nagy is a prospect, has unbelievable measurables and length. He can be a guy who's a developmental guy in their G League system, but come in and step up and be a really good backup defensive big after 1 or 2 years in the G League behind Mark Williams. If the Hornets came away with Brandon Miller and James Nagy in this first round, I don't think Hornets fans can complain too much.
Who would you say was the biggest winner of this mock draft if it played out like this?
I actually really
don't count the Spurs because that's not fair.
Yeah, the Spurs, that's unfair. It's tough. The Jazz just have 3 picks, so it's kind of tough to not pick them.
Whitehead at 28.
But one player I didn't really talk about when we got there is I really like Cason Wallace to Toronto. And I'll go back to show you where they picked him. They picked him in my mock draft 13th overall. I think they need another guard, and he is so good defensively. I think he could really step in and be a good player for Toronto. And they're stuck in no man's land. Like, Fred VanVleet's likely to leave. Are they tearing it down? Are they going to try to retool with Pascal Siakam and Scotty Barnes? So Cason Wallace could step in and replace Fred VanVleet and also provide them defense. I like the Cason Wallace fit to Toronto. That's one of my favorite picks I had in this mock draft.
Love it, love it. I am ready for the NBA draft, no doubt about it, and we're about 24 hours away. But before we get out of here, want you guys to grade Nick Rohloff's mock draft down in the comment section. Give him a grade. Don't be easy on him. If you don't get an F on a mock draft, did you even do a mock draft? So grade it A, B, C, D, or F. And remember to subscribe and join us tomorrow for coverage of the 2023 NBA Draft live here on Chat Sports.